Hi, everyone, and welcome to the content for this module on the workforce, the healthcare workforce. Really want to focus on two sources that I'd like you to take a look at, and then accompanying this module is the workforce shortage assignment. The first source is from a few years back, but also written by one of my favorite authors, Abraham Verghese, who is a physician. And actually, if you haven't heard of him, he is really a wonderful author and done some fiction work, which is phenomenal. Um, Cutting for Stone was his first. So he's a physician author, and there's a lot of them. But this piece really was personal. Now, it's entitled How Tech Can Turn Doctors into Care Workers, but think about any type of clinical healthcare profession. I mean, he's a physician, he's in Texas, uh, academic medical faculty, but, and he's specifically talking about EHRs. I think you'll find this really insightful, perhaps very much in tune with what he says. Um, Now, you might call him a traditionalist, but the point of including this article by Dr. Verghese here is really having to do with the notion of clerical workers. This is not to demean individuals who work in aspects of healthcare as clerical workers, but the idea of um, individuals who provide care, professional caregivers in all settings, being reduced to sort of the clerical duties, which you could probably argue is part of the administrative work, regardless, certainly when it comes to things like if you want to get paid, you got to document things like that, that many of you understand. But his point is really much more than that. And it starts really with the training. It is focused on EHRs, but think about any aspect. I think many of you have either heard the term that, death by 1,000 clicks, um, even though you can argue that AI, which he brings up here, has made things more efficient. It has changed the really fabric of education and thus practice for clinicians. Now, what I think is second, there's my phone ringing. Um, this always happens when I'm doing a recording. As I sort of go to the end of this, I'm going to ask you to check it out. The notion of burnout really becomes paramount. And it's not just the notion that, the workforce, the clinical workforce is burned out through technology. That's really not it. There might be some of that in there. Um, But even way back when, he was introducing concepts of machine learning and AI before it certainly became what it is today, not just in healthcare, but in the rest of our lives. I'd like you to just focus on one thing. I do want you to read the entire article, please. This last paragraph, the very last paragraph for me stood out. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard of this gentleman here, Avidus Donabedian, a physician in the early part of the 20th century, really known as the father of healthcare metrics, or essentially created the field of healthcare quality, which we've talked about. Not just metrics, but in measurement, but the only way you can understand if you're providing quality care or if a patient or client is receiving quality care, if you can measure it. And Donabedian made this really interesting comment towards the end of his life. The secret of quality is love. Now, that might seem pretty squishy, but it really sums up what this article is about. Now, as you are reading this, at the same time, I'm going to bring up the second piece. This is much more of a reference. It's not at all something that you need to memorize. I thought you would enjoy having it. You can certainly share it with colleagues or within your institution or organization. Uh, Earlier this year, the American Hospital Association published this document. All right. It's the healthcare workforce scan, which they do on a regular basis. I have not gone through all of this, but if you look at the table of contents, it's looking at the broader healthcare workforce. Although it does tend to focus more on inpatient hospital stuff, it excludes some in the healthcare workforce. Um, Almost all of the recommendations, which they call top of mind for the field, involve technology, upskilling through different means, but technology is in here, especially at the training level. I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. So, what we have is embracing technology, of course, have to, engaging clinicians in technology. And the last one is partnerships, training, and upskilling. We're talking about early careers or students, sort of like undergrad students at the University of Southern Indiana, who are interested in being clinicians. So the actual healthcare training for them should involve a great deal of technology to prepare them. Now, in some ways, I'd like you to think about, does that fly in the face after you scan this of what Verghese talks about, that, yeah, understanding that there are technologies that have to be used, but um, is the patient or the care of the patient really taking a back seat? Probably the last thing I'd like to focus on, which I think many of you are engaged in personally, and you have your own thoughts as well, is this last top of mind for the field, a more flexible and engaged workforce. So as I share this with you, I'm sitting in my living room. My two dogs are here beside me. In fact, I'm paying a pretty hefty air conditioning bill to keep these two lazy dogs cool. But I'm not in my office. Years ago, I would have only done this in my office. And so the notion of a flexible workforce, uh, you can argue it's been in the works for a while. COVID put it on steroids. Um, it is where we are. Now, I know that many of you do not have perhaps that opportunity, and some of you do. Um, that's a game changer, right? It's a game changer in all aspects of our lives. You have family members and friends and partners who are in the midst of that, and perhaps some who, because of their line of work, only work remotely, and some who do not work remotely at all. And so, how does that contribute? Which I will tell you, 5 years ago, pre COVID, or maybe 6 years ago, let's just be safe on that, was not part of this, engaging the workforce in a more flexible way. It has to be front and center. But what does that do to certain fields? I'd like you to think about these two things, perhaps look at this as you are also thinking about the workforce shortage assignment. The assignment, and you can listen to the YouTube video that talks about the assignment as well. It's not meant to be an intensely research. It is really about you just making some choices about what you'd like to dive a little deeper into, engaging generative AI and smart brevity in terms of analyzing one component. So really the focus of the workforce, I mean, you could talk about so many things, but these are two perhaps diametrically opposed sources that I'd like you to maybe put together, perhaps even thinking about using for your workforce shortage assignment. Okay. Thanks very much, folks. If you would like to engage in this a little bit more with me individually, just let me know. Thank you. Bye.